Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan. Welcome to a very rare daytime recording.
Yeah, Grump. I had to come back from the pool down here in sunny Florida, where now it's finally Florida weather again. So it's nice.
We're enjoying some normal winter weather, I'd say at this point. It's like 40 degrees and sunny here.
Yeah, this is our last show of 2022, and then we'll be together on New Year's Day for the game up in the Meadowlands. Looking forward to it.
The New Year's
Life permitting, of course.
Yeah. It's been kind of like a New Year's tradition, it feels like. I feel like we've had a New Year's Day game or it feels like frequently we've had this game, right?
Right around New Year's weekend. Even it may not be necessarily on the first, but definitely right before we get back to work, we get one. Unfortunately, the tradition's been it's been completely meaningless, and has been 36.
Well, that's the thing.
People in the stadium. So this is
spending
nice.
a holiday weekend is one of like 55 people at the game,
Right.
watching an exhibition match, essentially. Not the case. Sunday, January 1st at MetLife Stadium at 1 o'clock. The Giants have the playoffs on the line. A win and in scenario. No other things need to happen. In fact, they can get in even if they lose, I believe, on some scenarios, if the right teams lose as well. But, I mean, it's the last home game of the year. Even if they make the playoffs and win a game or two, it's unlikely they'll have another home game this year. You want to win this game.
Oh, I mean, you want to go in.
That's a stupid statement. You want to win every game, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. You want to build momentum, and I think your point a couple of weeks ago, which makes more and more sense, is that teams need confidence and they need momentum going into these final stretches, and for all the goodwill after beating Washington, and the kind of annoyance more than feeling shitty about how we played against Minnesota, you all of a sudden then lose to a really bad Indianapolis team. That really, that's not the way you want to head into, a potential meaningless game against Philly in the playoffs. So let's just win, get this out of the way, feel good about ourselves, make Week 17 completely meaningless,
and keep rolling for that matter.
And keep rolling. Sure.
I mean, they had a decent performance against Washington. They had a great performance against Minnesota that unfortunately is wiped down the drain due to a bad screen pass and an insane kick.
Yeah.
And you take that performance, you turn it into a win, and here you go from there. Now, I'm interested here. So the Colts are an interesting story, and I think most people know it, so I'm not going to recap the whole thing. But I mean, how weird is it that they've fired a head coach, they hired an ex-center who's allegedly the drinking buddy of the owner, and he comes in there. I think they won the first game, and then they've lost the last 5.
Yeah. This is, this ownership for the last 20, 30 years seems like everybody's just on a bender and just making moves at 3 a.m, like they're drunk dialing their old girlfriend, or they're just, hey, let's go steal a car. I mean, that's why I really.
This is a very interesting statement considering the recent things that have happened with Jay Gruden and with Urban Meyer not being associated with this organization.
Exactly. Yeah. But just like, you have these crazy press conferences from, this owner and the owner's dad going back, let's go even back to when they moved out of Baltimore in the middle of the night. There's just a bunch of weirdos, and they just kind of make very odd decisions. And, hiring Jeff Saturday is right up there on that list.
Before we get into the game and discussions about the game, I'm just curious. Do you see Jeff Saturday as the head coach next year?
No.
Yeah.
I think
it's so weird because they didn't just hire it. It was like such a fiasco that they had to come out and defend it, and like, and it's like you coming out and defending essentially an interim coach is even weird.
As insane as some of these owners are who think they don't care what anybody thinks, these are billion-dollar organizations. And believe me, they're doing focus groups, and they are testing with their season ticket holders, and they are basing on like what their sponsors say and everything. And that went over horribly. And this team is a mess right now. they need a good coach to stabilize this ship and right it, and they need a name. So I would not be surprised if somebody, a halfway, famous, interesting name becomes their coach next year. But they're not going to go into next year with this clown.
You think it's going to be Sean Payton?
I would definitely say Sean Payton is, one of two or three probable landing spots for him.
Do you think Sean Payton goes somewhere where there's not a quarterback in place?
Uh, yeah, because again, you don't hire a guy like Sean Payton for 1 year, and if you don't
True.
have your quarterback in year one, well, maybe you draft him in year one, at the end of year one. So I always hear that from people. It's like, well, there's no quarterback there. Or they
Well,
never.
I mean, certain coaches know that they're a hot commodity, and they can have a job at any time. But first of all, a coach like Sean Payton has enough money where he does not need to work anymore, so he can wait as long as he wants. He's also got
That's
this
true.
this network gig in the meantime that's giving him some fuck you money at the time. But he can sit around and wait for the right situation to arise if he feels like it. So I'm just curious on your thoughts based on
Yeah, he
what you
can,
see
but
from his personality, his ego, etc.
he can, but coach is coach. And the rare exceptions like the John Maddens and the Tony Dungies who, and I thought John Gruden too. Like once they get in the booth, they're never coming out. But coaches always want to coach. Dick Vermeil, another guy who was in the booth forever, but he still had that itch and he wanted to go coach somewhere. So I think that if it's the right situation and the right money's thrown about and the right amount of control is given, you know they can go anywhere. And I wouldn't be too concerned about, they don't have a quarterback this year or have a first round pick this year. You're hiring these guys thinking they're going to build this team, for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. It's one of the rare non-conference stories I'm interested in going into the offseason. I honestly could give a shit about the AFC for the most part when we're rebuilding our franchise. I mean, like right now, I got to worry about the Giants first and foremost. But I'm definitely curious to see what happens in Indy this offseason. But circling back to the game now, so. We just went over how bad of a PR move it was to bring Jeff Saturday in and just the mess of the organization. How do you feel generally about this game? You feel like this is a game that's winnable, correct?
Oh,
Just
absolutely.
in a word, this is winnable?
Should win.
Yeah.
Should
Okay,
win.
so that's the general consensus, but I'm seeing a real level of confidence. I think that might be recency bias, where the Giants just went to Minnesota and battled to the last second against the number 2 seed. At the same time, the Indianapolis threw like 3 interceptions in like the first half with a new quarterback again, who's an old quarterback who probably shouldn't be playing anymore. And I see this sentiment going around that the Giants should continue to sit Adoree Jackson, Azeez Ojulari, Leonard Williams for this game. And I wonder if you feel that confident about this game.
Absolutely not. I mean, I on a scale of 1 to 10, how much I think one team can beat another team. I'm never going to give anybody a 10 because this league is too wonky, and there are upsets happen more than you think. So I would never say I have 100% confidence that the Giants would beat Indy, but I don't know. I mean, this team is, it played well last week. It played well against Washington, but we're still, kind of a fringy playoff team that's, starting a rebuild and has pretty lots of depth issues all over the place.
We have starter issues in some places.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
entire
So,
wide receiver room has starter issues.
I mean, what if the argument is we're resting people for the playoffs? I mean, we are not a Super Bowl favorite. It's not like we should rest these guys so we can make that run to go through, you know, San Francisco, then Philly, then Minnesota, and then, go to the Super Bowl and win. No, I don't think anybody's even considering that or think that's a realistic possibility. So resting guys for what makes no sense.
There's
I
also a
think,
whole other week until the playoffs.
of
Like,
course,
if you really want to rest guys, why wouldn't you win this fucking game?
that's it.
Make sure you're in the playoffs, then
Exactly.
rest them if you
We're
feel
not
like
in.
you need it.
I mean, we got a lot of help with Detroit and Seattle losing last week. That gave us a lot of breathing
And
room.
I didn't expect either of those.
Oh no, I didn't need it today. to be very honest.
So
And a lot needed a lot of people. But let's just get in. The easiest way to not worry about, well, if this happens and that happens and this team wins and this team ties and this team, does whatever, is you win your game this Sunday, and then you sit back and you relax next week. That Philly game could be completely meaningless to Philly, or it could be very meaningful to Philly. We don't know, but why put it in there?
Dallas is only a game back.
Yeah, and also they still want to wrap up the 1 seed too.
Yeah.
So, again, if they win this week, week 17 is meaningless, and then fine. But there's the potential it's not. And if you fuck around today and you resting guys and you lose and you have to worry and rely on Philly, we saw what Philly did when they were at full strength. Does anybody want to do that again with everything on the line? Not me.
Not me. So I'm 100% with you there. I think this is a game that they can win, that they should win, and if they're going to be in the playoffs and if they're going to say they're a playoff team, they need to win. And I know they can get in even if they lose this game, but that is the most ass backwards falling your way into the playoffs there is. I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand the idea of just sitting all 3 guys. How about let's treat each guy's injury independently. Let's start right there. Let's not give a blanket treatment like this is that easy. Also, maybe you can give guys a smattering of snaps. Now, I, for one, don't want Adoree Jackson, who has not been playing for several weeks now, to come back in his first game be the most meaningful game of the year, in that it's a playoff game. I don't want him to be knocking rust off in the playoff appearance. I'd rather him shake the rust off beforehand and get some reps under his belt. I mean, if he's cleared to play, why not have him start the first quarter? And if this is such a fucking winnable game, that we should already have the lead, then you can kind of sit him and bring him in certain packages here and there, let him get his feet moving, that sort of thing. I think it's nonsense to say such a blanket statement. I'm not trying to call out Lawrence Tynes, but I'm seeing he said it, and then like 55 other people said it right after that, and I was like, this needs to chill out.
It's a weird, arrogant bravado this team has not earned and is not worthy of. Okay, if you're Philly, that's one thing. If you are Kansas City, that's one thing. We are neither. We're not even close. And
let's take a second. Let's take a second to actually talk about what Indianapolis is, because I did a brief recap, and I think that's all everybody else did. Oh, they lost the last 5 games. Oh, I saw that last game because I knew they were the next team and they were playing, and Nick Foles was terrible. Okay, here's the last 5 games. Okay, you ready? You tell me if this sounds like a horrible team. Philadelphia 17, Indianapolis 16. Pittsburgh 24, Indianapolis 17. Now, this one I'll grant you, but if you watch the game, you know that this was like an end-of-game mess. Dallas 54, Indianapolis 19. Minnesota 39, Indianapolis 36. And then that Chargers game 20-3. Those are not massive blowouts. In fact, those are all pretty good teams. Some of them are very good. 3 of them are very good teams. And mostly close games.
I mean, you could make a case like that's kind of us saying, well, we almost beat Dallas. Well,
yes.
We almost beat Minnesota. Well, we almost beat X and Y. So
exactly. I do not understand where this like big dick energy is coming from with confidence with this team. This is following a loss. I understand that they played really well, and it's a number 2 seed, and it's the best they've played in a while, and Danny looked really good and whatever, but they still lost.
That's the giant fan base and the giant media, Giants media. It's either this is the worst team of all time or the greatest team of all time. There's no in between honest look. And now everybody's feeling themselves because,
because we lost. I don't understand it.
I think I might have mentioned it on the last show. And I said, like, there's a little bit of a vibe of after we lost to the Patriots in that undefeated year at the Patriots, that we were feeling good about ourselves. Well, that was a team was already in the playoffs, and we thought we were pretty good. And that was the best team of all time. This is,
clearly not the best number 2 team.
A lot of people think it's a paper 2 seed right now. So
right.
It's not crazy about what an accomplishment it was to lose.
Exactly. And most of these things, like the Dallas game, even the Chargers game, those were the 2 biggest blowouts on that. The only 2 games that were a more than 1 score loss for Indianapolis in that 5-game losing streak. A lot of just offensive miscues. Their defense is pretty fucking good. In fact, it's not that far off from ours, which we feel our defense is way ahead of our offense, right?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, it's the same story with them. And not for nothing, I know Nick Foles looked like shit last week. Like, even the non-picks were dropped picks and things like that. That was Nick Foles' first game back in how long? Do you think he's going to be that rusty again? He also got like a 6-day notice that he was going to play that game. So the playbook, not that he doesn't know the playbook. He's been there, whatever. You get my point. Like it's not like he was mentally prepped for weeks
Right.
or physically prepped for weeks to be starting. He probably should have been. I don't think he was. He's all of this, like, I'm not hyping him up. I'm just saying I don't expect him to be that level of hot garbage 2 weeks in a row. Now, it can happen, and it might happen.
Moderate garbage, but maybe not the hot garbage we saw.
But, yeah. But remember, even the hot garbage, they lost 20-3, and that game, I think, by, like, the middle of the third quarter was still, like, 14-3 or something like that. It's still very much, that's a pick six away from being a one-score game.
This score was closer than the actual game itself.
Even the Dallas game was, I want to say, like 21-19 in the middle of the third quarter. I know it ended 54-19, but for 3 fucking quarters, Dallas fans had clenched assholes. So my main point is I do not understand where this level of extreme confidence that we're going to be sitting 3 all-stars on our defense. No way. I'm not sitting anybody that's medically cleared.
This game is, well, just.
I'm ready to pull them if needed. We can pull them.
Oh, if we're up 21-0, sure.
Yeah.
Just if the weather conditions are going to be a little dicey and it's a slick track, well, then we consider it. But
right, but those are
this game
different
cannot be
factors.
treated as a meaningless game. This is not a bowl game. This is not a Week 17 game. This is we haven't clinched anything yet. Got to get in.
This is the clinching game. This is arguably the most important game of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't get this. Now we can talk a little bit about we'll keep it pretty general because I do think that this is a win, and I think that there's ways they can win. They have to keep playing the way they played last week, offensively, aggressive, downfield, let DJ drop back. It's going to be harder because, in my opinion, this defensive front is better than Minnesota's. With Kwity Paye and DeForest Buckner is insane on the inside. Yannick Ngakoue. I like Franklin at linebacker. Stephon Gilmore is a really good corner. This isn't a bad defense.
Buckner was everywhere last week in that Monday night game.
He was everywhere against Dallas, and do we think we are Dallas on the offensive line? Because I don't.
Negative.
I am cringing at the thought of DeForest Buckner in our interior. Which interior lineman do you want lined up against him? I can't think of one guy, at least 2 on every play.
Yeah.
And we're just not good enough to have to allocate those level of resources to a guy who's not really like all pro or anything.
Right.
I don't think that this is going to be a super easy game for us to just stack points. I don't think we're hitting 30 points in this game. But I do think that the game plan is going to be relatively the same. I like the idea of throwing the ball to Barkley out in the flat rather than trying to cram him up the middle. I don't think that shit's going to work. I like the idea of letting the pass set up Barkley. Let them have to worry about DJ's arm. He's got a good arm. It's okay that your receivers are a bit shitty. They're good enough where the scheme can get them open and they can catch passes to open up and let Barkley take over the game because Barkley is your weapon. And I like the idea of using Barkley in the second half when they're winded. When they're on their heels, you put the ball in your best player's hands and he's rested. I like that plan.
Those things we saw early in the year, like in the Tennessee game and the Baltimore game, was the second half is where he did his most damage. The Minnesota game, even recently too. So get back to doing that.
And the Washington game. Remember, he ripped off those those 4 duo runs that were like 10 plus yards in a row.
That's right.
I like that plan offensively, but I do think it's going to be tougher sledding. I think we're going to be hearing boos early in this game. If I'm being totally honest, I think Giants fans are coming. This is my Twitter might have changed my perception of what Giants fans are really thinking right now. I could be wrong, but I think Giants fans are expecting this to be a steamroll to win and get their spot, and it's not going to happen right away, I don't think.
I think what happened was when you went back 5 or 6 weeks ago, I mean, the beginning of this big run of games we had, when it started with Dallas, Philly, two Washingtons, Minnesota, they said, oh, there's the break. It's Indy. That's the one game we know we can win out of all of those. And the people stuck with that narrative and that thought through these 6 or 7 games. And maybe haven't taken a peek at what Indy really is, but they just know that Indy isn't Philly. Indy isn't Dallas. They're not Minnesota. So now we're here. We're at that game. Oh, here's our gimme game. And oh, maybe Philly may not play everybody next. They just realized that like a week or two ago that they may not care about that week 17 game. So it's like, oh, we'll just win this game. And then we got next week could be a gimme. And look at us. Away we go. So I think that's where a lot of this probably came from.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. But that is such insane amnesia considering this is a team that can't seem to fucking punt correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a fan base that, is in spite of the last decade of, infertility and infertility, futility.
There you go.
Would be very bad. There'd be no more Giant fans. Of futility and just this team sucks. This team sucks. Just back to the way it was in 1992. Like this team is great, and we're great. So. It's okay. Twitter, we love you, Giants Twitter. Don't ever change. But
yeah, you might be right with the infertility, as it's been like a metaphorical ball kicking since 2016.
Ugh.
It has, hasn't it?
How you guys doing down there? No response.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
So I think where the Giants are going to make their money in this game, and that's really keep them in it, is defensively. I think the defense is. I know what Justin Jefferson did last week, but that's Justin Jefferson, and also Kirk Cousins was just kind of throwing blind against the blitz, and I don't think that strategy is going to work the same. Quentin Nelson isn't even having a good year for Indianapolis. The whole offense looks like crap. But again, Nick Foles is a savvy veteran, and the things that trick the younger quarterbacks, I don't think that's going to work on him. Really, they need to be attacking his mobility at this point. And
I agree.
And I think they will, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. He's going to take a lot of sacks. I don't think he's going to fumble too much, but I could see him throwing into bad situations a couple times in this game, and that's going to have to show up.
Well, let's see where they are on second down most of the game. If there's a lot of 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10s, 2nd and 11s, I'm going to feel great. If I see a lot of 2nd and 3s and 2nd and 4s even.
Well, that's the thing, is that their running game is pretty good. I mean, their run blocking isn't great, but they have a good running back. And
that's
if we don't score points to make them have to throw the ball early, we could be. Again, I'm foreseeing early boos at the stadium. I think people think we're going to just, on the first drive, if we're not scoring a touchdown, we're scoring a field goal after driving 60 yards or something like that, and then we're going to stop them and get the ball back. It's not going to be like that, I don't think. And by the way, we didn't even do that to Houston.
And who cares? Well, something a lot of people haven't been doing that to Houston either. Well, Houston is the worst team I've ever seen, I think.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, something, I don't care, honestly, if we win this game by 1 or by 40, it's just win this week.
That's how I feel. But I
know you were upset after the Houston game. You were more upset.
This is different, though. This is different because this is,
this is the playoffs right now. This is basically the playoffs.
Right. And also, Indianapolis is doing a quarterback switch. Like, there's trip-ups that can happen with this game. Putting in a veteran quarterback like Nick Foles, who had his shit game last week, I could easily see him having a bounce-back game where he doesn't look bad at all. You just see the limitations he has with his age and his mobility or whatever. I can foresee that. Where Houston was just like, it's Davis fucking Mills. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And on top of that, that was like sort of the middle of the year thing. The Giants were not on a slide yet. Like, that was like, that should have been. It's just different. It's different. I will not care if we win this game by 1.
That might have been a game we could have been potentially overlooking, as a coaching staff, as a team in general. But that's not happening today.
I really don't think it will. I
I would really question this coaching staff if that's the case. I would really start, being very critical of what's going on for something like that. And I also don't think that's the case.
I don't either.
They've done too many things this season to make me think that this season is not playoff or bust. If this season was playoff or bust, we'd have James Bradbury.
We'd have Kadarius Toney.
We'd have Kadarius Toney. We would have, we would find some way to make it work with Kenny Golladay. We would do things to say, we have to break out every possible option to win, every game we can. And they've not coached that way. They've coached as this is the beginning of a journey. And good things are happening because of that first path. But they are not looking, they have an even keel and an even perspective of what this team actually is. And to their credit, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to get silly by resting guys or doing things to jeopardize, because they still want to make the playoffs for sure. It's an extra week of practice. It's makes the locker room feel good. It's something you can, when contracts are up, you can say we made the playoffs. All those different things. So
I've heard this sentiment before that, like, well, I know this recent history here, but like players say all the time that when you have a losing season and you don't make the playoffs, it really makes no fucking difference if you won 4 of your last 6. There's no carryover. I do believe, however, making the playoffs after not going to the playoffs for 4 years, I think that momentum might carry over. I think that's something where you want it more, especially when you have a winning. Like, normally when you're talking about, we won 4 of our last 5, though, we're on a roll. It's like, yeah, but you still had a losing record. Like,
well, it helps 2 different groups in that locker room. I mean, it helps the guys that are rookies. They don't know a bad culture.
True.
And it's like, this is a winning culture. We make the playoffs here. And also for guys like Daniel Jones, it's almost like a fountain of youth of like, I have never seen winning in this team.
Or in college?
Or in college. And, give them that moment to celebrate making the playoffs. And, you people may laugh that champagne may be popped for making the wild card, but tell that to these guys that have never been there. It's either with this team, other teams in the NFL, or to Daniel Jones ever since high school.
And I remember a quote, and I know that I'm comparing apples to oranges here a little bit, but I remember a quote from, I can't remember if it was Amani Toomer or Michael Strahan that was saying it to the 2007 team, specifically about the Super Bowl. So a little different, but the message was, don't be satisfied with being here. Don't be satisfied with just getting here. You want to win. And that is a holdover from the 2000 team that got there, or 2001 team.
The 2000 season in the 2001
right,
Super Bowl.
That got their asses handed to them by the Ravens.
Yep.
That's a holdover from 2 players who were there and got the shit kicked out of them, and they want to come back. Now, this is kind of different, but like just making it to the playoffs and losing there makes you want to get better and go back and redo that playoffs. I wish we could redo this season. Now, with all the things that I know, I want to get back there. I want to win. I want to win more.
Loved and lost and never loved it all.
Yeah, but to not make the playoffs at all, that drive, having never been there, I don't think it's the same. I don't think that drive to push you to get to the playoffs for the first time is the same as the drive to get back into the playoffs.
Sure.
So, I think this is give me your. I want to know what you think of how this game is going to go, and then I'll hit you with mine.
This is going to be just a classic 2022 Giants game. The weather's going to be. I think it's going to be kind of shitty, right? It's supposed to rain.
I keep seeing it change. The last time I saw for sure it was going to rain was a couple days ago, which is like a week before the game, so who knows how accurate. But it's either going to rain Sunday or Saturday, so it could be bad.
Warm but rainy. The Giants just don't score 30 points, so why would they start now? I wouldn't. I don't take anybody for granted. I won't take one team in this league for granted. Too much craziness happens. But the Colts are, let's be honest, they're kind of finishing out the string right now. It's who knows if that coaching staff's going to be back next year. Who knows what that locker room is thinking? Who knows, the respect level they have for that coach. They've been playing musical quarterbacks, and it's not the most exciting bunch to be playing musical quarterbacks with. The Giants, this is a referendum on them, on what have you done to this point? How much culture has changed to this point where, you're not either looking ahead past this team or just laying an egg for a team that you should win. This is a team, just go in there, do your job, and win. No foolish mistakes. No running out the ball. If a kickoff is 9 yards deep, like we saw in the Indianapolis game. Don't do dumb things. No, don't celebrate and taunt after you get a first down. Don't do any of the stuff that's kind of held this team back before. Let's see the growth on this team. Let's go to Candlewick Diner at about 5:30 on Sunday with champagne in our hand after beating Indianapolis 21-13.
I like it. You know what? That's a smart message too. Like you said, like just none of the dumb shit. Don't even celebrate. Just like getting a first down or whatever. Just go in there, take care of business, and then celebrate when you win. I'm with you there. I think this game is going to start slow. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a classic 2022 Giants game. I do not foresee us getting 30 points in this game unless we get two defensive scores, which I don't think Nick Foles is going to be as bad as we saw last week. I just don't think so. I think he's shaken off the rust. He's gotten used to the playing speed, and he'll still be pretty bad, I think, but I don't think he's going to be absolute trash. And I think that this is going to be a slow start that we kind of pull away. There's probably a big turnover or a defensive score or something of that nature that shifts the momentum finally fully into the Giants' control. And I agree. I think it's going to be something like 23-14 or something like that.
Yeah, a fast game.
Yes, I agree.
I feel like, my God, there's 4 minutes left in the half already, and it's like,
I'm still eating my hot dog.
2:15, yeah.
Real quick.
Any predictions, Grump, on my flight getting there on time or not? What is your thoughts?
Oh, shit. You're flying up that day?
7:30 from Tampa, get into Kennedy at 10 o'clock.
You're flying into Kennedy? Do you need a ride, or are you just going right train?
We are Ubering to Penn Station, and then I drop off the cranky wife, and then I take the train to the Meadowlands.
Okay. It's supposed to land at what time? 10?
I think 9:50. What is your prediction when we see each other in the parking lot?
9:50 is when you land. I might not see you till noon.
All right.
Right? Don't you think? Like, because by the time you get off the plane, get from Kennedy to Penn, then you got to rely. I mean, you got to hit that train.
No traffic. Think about it. New Year's morning.
No traffic, but you got to get at the train station right when the train is leaving to really. You know what I mean? Like, you might have to wait 20 minutes, and then that's a separate train from Secaucus.
Yep.
Which, I mean, those run pretty frequently, but I mean, if you just miss it, you're waiting another 20 minutes, and then it's a 10-minute ride. Then you got to walk all the way over to the parking lot. I'm saying noon.
I'm gonna go with 12:15. I will see you guys in L17.
Okay.
Or L16. Where are we going?
16, 17.
17.
I walk in that general area, and then when I hear the yelling, I know I'm in the right spot.
We look for the Snacks Mobile, and
I mean, usually Snacks finds me and is yelling at me for being late, no matter what time it is. So
there'll be some Bon Jovi playing. You hear that speaker just
or the Undertaker theme that's on repeat or whatever. Real quick around the NFC East, first place Philadelphia versus New Orleans. They're at home, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is playing. Is he?
I do not believe he is.
How do you feel about that game? Is still a Philly win?
Philly wins. I mean, Gardner Minshew, how much did they score against Dallas?
I think Gardner Minshew coming in gets to play with a really good team. You kind of forget it's Gardner Minshew a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, that's my point. They didn't bring in, somebody throwing with their left hand like this. So
No, not at all.
Good enough to beat New Orleans.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a Philly win. It's pretty solid.
We'll be rooting for Philly too.
Yes.
We want Week 17 to be completely meaningless.
Yes.
On all accords.
Dallas is at Tennessee, so we're going to be rooting for Tennessee to keep Dallas away from Philly, right?
That's correct. Yes.
How do you actually feel?
No Derrick Henry?
I don't know about Derrick Henry. Is Ryan Tannehill playing?
So what's
I
your
didn't
preference here?
see anything about him sitting, but my dumb boss told me he might not play, and I haven't looked it up yet.
Let's hope your dumb boss does not listen to this program.
He doesn't.
I am doing a quick search on the Google machine about Derrick Henry. So you don't get this production value on any other show, ladies and gentlemen.
What'd you say about Derrick Henry? He is.
He is. He is doubtful as of
Oh,
21 hours ago. Not expected to play as of 3 hours ago.
that's a Dallas win.
Yeah,
I'm
of
going
course.
down. I can't imagine Tennessee beating Dallas without Derrick Henry,
No.
and they're not sitting shit. Dallas. Most interesting one, but least relevant, I would say, to the Giants is probably Washington versus Cleveland. But this is Cleveland with Deshaun Watson.
Well, wait a minute. Have we officially clinched ending up finishing higher than Washington in a seed?
I guess not.
Yeah, so until that moment happens, I guess there is interest.
Yeah, but kinda. I get. All right. Well, also this is the Carson Wentz Commanders.
Ooh.
This is Carson's Commanders versus Watson's Browns.
That sounds like some bad pickup game on Thanksgiving Day.
It might be.
Yeah.
um,
What do you think about that going back to Wentz over
Foolish,
yeah.
in my opinion. I don't remember what Wentz is signed for, but it's almost a guarantee. Even if he is signed on for next year, it's a guarantee he's gone. There's at least a slim chance that Taylor Heineke is like your backup next year. Just keep rolling with him.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess technically they're not mathematically eliminated. So if you think Wentz is the better guy, maybe you do that. But I can't even justify on a skill level standpoint going Wentz over Heineke. I think it's kind of you roll with one or the other. At least Heineke seems to have the support of the team.
Well, they're not going to be I mean, they're going to be that third wild card
Not necessarily.
unless something really tragic happens. They lose their last two, and I mean, is that the Green Bay scenario where they
Green
win
Bay.
their
I mean,
last?
I think Seattle could still leap them. Seattle's only a game behind them.
Yes.
Couldn't
So
Seattle win two and Washington lose two? And
I guess it's theoretically possible. So they definitely have a ton to play for. I mean,
they have a lot to play for. It's interesting to go Wentz, in my opinion. I don't
Yeah.
really even. I guess I'm going
Especially
Washington in this
they're
game,
all
but I don't
over them.
feel. Do you feel confident about picking one team or the other? I feel like it could go either way.
In this Cleveland game.
Yeah. Not that I think Cleveland is good. I think Wentz is bad.
Yeah, I'll go with Washington because they need it more. But
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel the
wouldn't go to
same way.
Vegas on it.
Yeah, no.
But we've been questioning Ron Rivera kind of all year, right? Like in-game decisions and kind of decisions like this.
I would say it even stretches to last year with some
Yeah.
decisions he made. So, yeah, and then you just put it under the guise of the riverboat umbrella, and you're just like, you win some, lose some with being a riverboat. It's like, well, sometimes you're just dumb. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
sometimes you're just doing dumb shit.
Yeah, if I'm hitting on, if I'm hitting on 12 or something, that's not being a riverboat. That's just being stupid.
Yeah. I don't know. I got nothing left for this. Anything else? Closing thoughts?
Well, it's our last home game. It's our last tailgate. It's our last time most likely to see the Giants at home unless something
Really
pretty
weird
extraordinary
happens.
I think we just put ourselves in our place back in August and where we thought we'd be at this time this year and say this has been a very successful year.
Isn't it wild that in his first year, this isn't the same as like Ben McAdoo taking over the 2015 Giants in 2016, where there's a lot of pieces in place already. You've got Eli Manning at quarterback, and you go to you're 12-4 in your first year. But in Brian Daboll's first year, he takes a rebuilding team. They trade away a very recent first round pick. They bench a big name free agent, and they still make the playoffs. That's nuts. That is some wild fucking coaching.
I mean, we're 52 weeks away from a kneel down on third down.
It's a sneak, but
Okay, whatever.
we're also
like,
52 weeks away from a deli counter worker at playing quarterback. So
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying though. For 1 year removed from that, we are, looking like not even only even being in the playoffs, but not even being like, that last seed that just is squeaking in. We're
Yeah,
actually
considering we could have clinched last week, that would have been 3 weeks before the end of the year. That's
yeah.
nuts. It was already an accomplishment to make a playoffs in the first year while rebuilding. To
And
do it
not
before the end of the year, that's before Christmas.
and not in the NFC East from 2 years ago, where it was the biggest joke of all time, and
Oh,
somebody
right,
had
yeah.
to make it. We're talking about a division where all four teams are making the playoffs,
Yeah.
most likely.
So that's just insane. And if it doesn't happen, I don't want to put that juju out there, so I'll knock on wood here. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But like, it's just wild that it's even possible.
Sure.
I would say even like very possible. So hats off to this coaching staff, to Joe Shane, the team itself, on what has been a very enjoyable year of this show.
Something you can even say hats off to the Maras because
Yeah.
they
They've taken their share of licks.
they've taken their share of licks, but they decided it was time because how loyal they were to Dave Gettleman. That the Joe Judge, signing, they wanted that to succeed. They didn't want to cut bait after just a couple of years. So it took, I don't want to make them out to be, national heroes, but it took some intestinal fortitude to cut bait when they did, and just cut bait and start over. Get your GM and your head coach on the same page, starting the same time. So they deserve some credit too.
You're absolutely right. And this sounds like we should have the Vitamin C song playing in the background here, but it's still we still have some games to play here. It looks like we're going to be in the playoffs, so we'll have plenty of episodes, whatever. But this is the last time we're going to see them. So this has been a very fun season of doing this show. For the first time,
Yeah.
we've done it. We talked about relevant football the entirety of the season, which is fantastic and fun.
But I wouldn't say, some teams are like, okay, they're going to make the playoffs, but it's not been a fun team to watch. Like, I don't get the sense this year.
No, this was fun as hell.
I mean, at times, there was some frustration, but, this team doesn't score a lot of points. We've already said that, but
sports are frustrating. We're passionate fans. You and I, if we're an 11-win team, one of those losses, you and I are pissed about. So I mean, that's just part of it. It's passion.
But this is not a horrible team to watch. This
No.
is a team, you can see what they're trying to do. Frustrating at times, you don't have the guys necessarily do it, but I mean, I wish I could go forward in time and watch this episode from December 2023 and see what we're talking about. And that's what makes it exciting, is we have hope going forward.
I can tell you what I'm not going to do, and that's go to youtube.com/justgiants and check out the episode from last December and see what we were talking about. I'm definitely not going to do that. Those episodes are worth it.
Would be a good idea.
Yeah, I would probably go back and look at this a year from now and see how we felt. But you guys should all just go to YouTube anyway and check out the show there. Recommend it to friends. Tell friends of friends. You know a Giants fan? Tell them about Just Giants. It's on YouTube. Easiest thing you can do.
That subscribe button would be really fun also.
Yeah, but I mean, just spread the word. I know we have like a core group of listeners. We'd like to expand on that. So, a Giants fan? Tell them about it. It's on YouTube. Easiest thing in the world to find. Just Giants. Send them a link. Whatever. But if they're not into YouTube, audio as well. SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. All the major ones. And we will see you all Tuesday morning celebrating a playoff berth.
How about that?
All right. We will see you all Tuesday morning. Until then, go Giants.